So I've been wanting to make this video for a while now. I just want to talk about the beautiful disaster that is Mount Davis. And if you're a fan of stadiums, you definitely have a special place in your heart for Mount Davis. It's extremely ugly, but it's also just so unique. And I kind of want to go through the history of it. How did it come about? What is its exact purpose? And how the heck is it even still standing? And I want to talk about a little funny story. So I've been doing these stadium videos for a little while now, and someone messaged me and they asked me, they said, what do you think about the Oakland Athletics renovating Mount Davis and putting like social spaces up there? Because that's what they're doing at all the other stadiums. And I have a message for him. I will delete my YouTube channel if they renovate Mount Davis. The next thing that's going to be happening to Mount Davis is a wrecking ball, okay? But there you guys can see the Oakland Coliseum. Now it's called the Ring Central Coliseum. I mean, it's so sad. It is the worst stadium in baseball, kind of by process of elimination because it's the last multi-purpose. Maybe you can argue Tropicana, but taking a look at it before the beautiful Mount Davis structure was put into place, and you can see you've got a nice view of the mountains. It looks like a legit MLB Stadium. It's got fitted outfield seating going around with, the batter's eye in center. So it looks legitimate. It's a fine stadium. Maybe the seating is a little bit too big. I mean, it still sat a lot of people even without Mount Davis. But I actually found this old YouTube video of them constructing Mount Davis, and they literally constructed it like an erector set. So all that lower seating that you guys see, like all the scattered sections that are kind of just put randomly, that's kind of how they built it. They didn't build it with all the sections together like how you see it or how you saw it during the Raiders games before the Raiders left the Coliseum. They just built it like it scattered sections. So it's really surprised me, but there's some photos of it going up. That was during a game. And how did this thing happen? So let's go through the history books. Mount Davis, it is a section at the Oakland Coliseum. It was built in 1995 at the behest of the Oakland City Council with the intent of bringing the Los Angeles Raiders, American football team, back to Oakland. And it's named after the former Raiders owner, Al Davis. Since 2006, the top-tier seating of Mount Davis has been covered by a tarp during all Oakland Athletics baseball games. The Raiders followed suit in 2013, and there's something interesting about the Raiders doing it. The reason the Raiders started tarping off Mount Davis is because they were never selling it out, and it was becoming a real issue to where the NFL was blacking out games in the area. So they said, we're just going to tarp it off, and it's not going to be, the tickets are not for sale on Mount Davis because there's just too much seating. We're not going to be able to sell it. Part of the reason why Oakland moved, well, really, let's be honest, the main reason Oakland moved was because of the stadium. I mean, it was just so bad. And you just take a look at the tarp that was installed due to low attendance in 2006. They installed a layer covering all top-tier seating areas of the Coliseum, including the top level of Mount Davis, as the Athletics could not sell advertising space on the tarp. Various athletics-related messages were printed instead on the tarp. The Mount Davis sections of the tarp display the team's logos and retired numbers. I'm not sure if they still do that. And the overall tarp covered roughly 21,000 seats total. Though the tarps can be removed, the Athletics management previously refused to do so unless the team made the World Series, as they claimed it made the stadium more intimate. Well, that's just horrible. I would have liked to seen it for a playoff game. This policy was maintained to the chagrin This policy was maintained to the chagrin of many fans during the 2012 American League Division Series, where all the other seats were sold out with demand for more tickets, but the tarp on top of Mount Davis was not removed. For the 2013 League Division Series, the tarp was removed for the rest of the third deck, but not Mount Davis. However, in 2017, the A's president came out and announced that some sections of the tarp, though not those on Mount Davis, would be removed for at least the remainder of the 2017 season. Done in response to long-standing fan complaints, this move added back 12,000 seats to the Coliseum during the A's game, leaving roughly 9,000 seats on Mount Davis still covered. So basically what's going on right now with the tarp, they had it going on, it's still on Mount Davis. The tarp is still covering Mount Davis, but the surrounding upper deck, they've completely removed it. And that actually surprised me that they removed it in 2017. I don't remember it happening that early. I thought it happened in like 2019. But Oakland, a few times they do this, and I think this is great. They actually take the tarp off of Mount Davis. And it's funny because people were complaining back during the Giants, Athletics, Bay Series, the rivalry. People were complaining how dirty the seating was on Mount Davis because no one had sat in it for years. But back in 2018, they removed the seats and they set an attendance record, 56,000, and then the next year they removed them again. I don't think they set any record, but I believe they had right around 50,000 at least in attendance for San Francisco and Oakland at the Coliseum. And it's really just like one last hurrah for the stadium. We know this place. I mean, how many years does it have left? I would say probably 3 or 4 at least, because they don't even have a plan in place. I guess they could move to Vegas, play at some crap, minor league stadium as they wait for the major league stadium to get ready. But overall, Mount Davis is it's obviously got all those seats on top, and then really the structure of it, like the section of seating, I've never seen a section of upper deck seating in the outfield that's not connected to anything else. That is why it is so unique. And of course it was constructed for football, but now that football is gone, and really, just during the baseball season, it just looks so ugly. And then they kind of have like 3 sections of suites and then a bunch of just random sparsed out sections of lower tier seating that they can try and configure. They actually push a bunch of seats back and then remove them totally from the area when the Raiders were playing. But now that the Raiders are gone, they just keep it as it is at this point. So that is just a little history on Mount Davis. Of course, Oakland has tried many different projects. You can see the various potential stadiums. They had a stadium planned in 2012. They pitched an idea in 2009. They've got another one now in 2022 at a harbor. And it just is not happening right now for the Athletics. So I think everyone is a little bit surprised that Mount Davis is still standing and it hasn't been hit with a wrecking ball. I mean, there is this, you've got this Facebook group, Tear Down Mount Davis, 422 likes. So, and it says it's a group dedicated to keeping the A's in Oakland, but I guess they also want to tear down Mount Davis, and it's understandable. I mean, it completely blocks the mountains in the back, and you would think, so this is another thing, you would think with the Raiders long gone, they'd be open to tearing it down, but they just don't want to invest any money into this stadium because this team is leaving or they're getting a new stadium, so there's no point in renovating a much-needed, this stadium. If you want to talk about what is the most needed renovation, it's this stadium, but there's no point because they're leaving this place. They want to plan the next stadium. They don't care about this one, so they're just letting this stadium just sit and rot and be the worst stadium as they figure out what they want to do, whether or not they're going to move the Athletics to Vegas or maybe, I would say right now, 80% chance they move. I mean, that's just me spitballing it, but this is due to various projects that have failed over a decade now, with them trying to find the right area, raise the amount for a new stadium. They can't do it. And now, if you look at what the A's are doing to their team, they're tearing it down and they're selling all their good, or they're not even selling, they're trading all their good players for marginal prospects and really making some weird moves where, I mean, they traded, Sean Murphy, a really good catcher, for like 2 or 3 marginal prospects, and people are like, I mean, what are they doing? So it seems like they're sabotaging their own team almost. Maybe they identified those prospects and they like them, but I don't know. Either way, I just find it very interesting, the whole Mount Davis thing. And if you think going back to like 2014 when they started tarping off Mount Davis for both the football and the baseball games, it's probably been tarped off, I would say 99.9% of professional sporting events. So it's probably the most obsolete area of seating in all of sports when you think about it. Literally, because they started tarping it off for football as well, because they couldn't sell enough seats in the Coliseum for the Oakland Raiders game, so they started doing it for that. So I would say it's probably the most obsolete seating area in all of sports. Either way, just kind of a fun history lesson on Mount Davis, guys. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.